Hello everyone and welcome to Pyanodons Mods. This is Otaku Showboat, and in this tutorial I'll be going over military science. As per usual, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to help make this tutorial series visible higher up in search results. You can also follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/OtakuShowboat, on Twitter at OtakuShowboat, visit my website at otakushowboat.com, and help to support my continued existence as well as help to accelerate the production of these tutorials as well as the rest of my content by becoming a patron on Patreon at patreon.com/OtakuShowboat. You can also help support Pyanodons Mods development at patreon.com/Pyanodon. As a disclaimer, Pyanodons mods are in a constant state of flux, so any numbers I present may change at any time. The mods for this particular save file are nearly identical to my stream save, the list of which is linked below this video on my website's stream schedule page. The only difference is that I am using the Infinity mod to help to show what this particular chain looks like. So with that said, let us get started. I'm realizing that I need even more thingies to feed this. So, military science. This is going to be a very, very short little video about military science, particularly because it's going to be focused more on a discussion of what you need military science for going forward. Now, I am a little bit biased. I don't play with biters, usually. I don't normally play with biters. Pyanodons mods are not particularly well balanced around the concept of playing with biters. You're essentially taking what is already hard mode and making it nearly impossible by playing with biters. I say nearly because I know that there are people that do play Pyanodons mods with biters enabled on like Death World settings, and they'll have their fun. They're more than capable of figuring things out on their own. If you're watching this series, chances are you're here because you want to have a little bit of help along the way. So my suggestion, as always, is don't play with biters. So in which case, military science is going to be required for one very specific thing. It will be required for one very specific thing leading into your Circuit 2s. And that is going to be, you need it for mining molybdenum. You need military science before you can start mining molybdenum. And you will need some molybdenum leading into your Circuit 2s and blue science. Some, not a lot. It takes a lot to get a little, but either way. In order to start mining molybdenum, you're going to need laser turrets, because laser turrets are an ingredient in the molybdenum mines. So in order to get laser turrets, you need military science. Therefore, we are doing the military science tutorial as the next thing in our sequence of events that need to happen. If you've been following this tutorial series thus far, you will probably have noticed that I've tended to lay things out, generally speaking, in a specific order. And that order is generally a recommended slash... Some of it is a little gray. You can switch some things around, but in general, there is a path to follow when following these tutorials. And right now, the path is the path to get to Circuit 2s. So this is part of that, and that's where this will come up. At this point, I've covered how to process nickel, I've covered how to process zinc, I've covered how to process even doing your green science, processing chromium, doing basically everything else. I even covered how to process niobium thus far. The next step is molybdenum, and to get to molybdenum, we need this. Now, military science itself very simple. You can see the whole thing here, minus the actual production of the inputs here. This is going to be a huge demand on lead. It is a huge demand on lead. Now, what I have built here is, generally speaking, going to be way more than you will need. You do not have to build this heavily for your military science. In fact, you can probably get away with like 3 automated factories, if that. You can get away with 1 as the kitty attempts to invade on my recording here. Yes, kitty Cole. He has a tail here. He has entered my lap now. Okay. Continuing along. It's going to be a heavy drain on lead, so chances are you're going to be, in the early game, restricted on how much military science that you can potentially produce due to the straight lead requirement. And since you only need it if you don't have biters enable, you only really need it for very specific sets of techs going into the late game. You're going to need it for laser turrets. You're going to need it for laser turrets. You're going to need it for the, my mind is drawing a blank. You need it to get better armor as well, to get your, power armor. Mark II. Power armor Mark II is going to need mill science, as well as, like, modules and all that good stuff. Power armor Mark I, fortunately, is not really blocked behind mill science. Good luck making it anytime soon, though, because it needs circuit board 3s. Good luck making it at blue science, because it requires circuit board 3s. You're going to be at purple science before you can do that. You are going to be at purple science before you can do that. So, yeah, you will eventually need mill science for your power armor Mark II. Now, when I look at this, this is flagging to me that there is potentially a slight issue here. There's no productivity, or not productivity, but there's no production science here. So this may change, or it may not. This probably should be purple science. I don't know. I don't know at this point, because realistically speaking, I don't know. But you do need military science. This is my point here, despite there potentially being some sort of a bug here, maybe because there's no production science. Usually you have production with utility on anything that uses utility. They don't tend to be separated from each other, even though I see that there are techs here where they are that use military in, I guess, instead of purple. But generally speaking, most stuff ties utility with purple production. But anyway, so the point being, you're not really going to need this much. This is just the ratio. This is just the ratio of using automated factories. You end up with 3 per second in the end. It's 10 automated factories, making 3 military science, needing 30 lead plates, 1.5 aluminium, 3 walls, and 1.5 piercing rounds. Now, the 3 walls, 1 machine makes 3 walls, and then processing a single firearm magazine factory into the fully processing using 3 machines into 1.5 piercing rounds. That's enough to feed 10. So, in reality, what you're probably going to be doing is not 10, but more like maybe 2, if that. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to, store the excess or something. I mean, if you're not using biters, then you don't really have too much of a point to the piercing round ammo anyway, or the walls, so it's up to you what you want to do with them. The piercing rounds do come a little bit in handy, though, if and only if you are in a situation where you are relocating a bunch of boxes that are full. If you are relocating a bunch of provider chests, like you're copying, pasting, moving things to different locations, making edits to stuff, and say you've got a chest that's just absolutely full of something and you don't want to wait for robots to empty out the chest, well, the simple solution is to, well, destroy it. Oh yeah, they added the new remnant stuff recently as well. It's like, oh yeah, that's part of the base game now, is the new remnant system. So that is pretty much the only reason I've found to even have excess ammo production at this point. It just helps with clearing out some chests that are full of like sand or soil and things like that. Things of that nature. So that, as I say, is military science. That is mil science. That's all you really need. It's really simple. I've built this using belts. Is another thing to note. I have built this using belts. Chances are, if you're doing this after green science, you will have a robot-based setup. I will never suggest feeding high input volumes with robots, because that's a lot of robots and that's a lot of processing that takes. So whenever you can, try to do direct belt feeding, like all the interim steps, I would say, belt feed. So build this and have your robots like bring the plates and stuff in. That would be my suggestion to you all. Despite the pretty high amount that are going to be flying around for this lead, maybe try to snake some lead in wherever you have this, or like bring a train in, do everything via belts and do the train out, or let your bots take the science out, and because science is a lot lower. And then of course, as you progress through blue science and beyond, everything is going, well, I guess just your science is going to take productivity modules. But again, you don't need a lot of it going into the later stages of the tech tree. You're not going to be needing it going into the later stages of the tech tree. You're only going to need it for a very few specific things that happen to need it if you aren't using biters. So, but if you are using biters, then by all means set this up as early as you can, so that you can get yourself some better mill techs, because you're going to need them as quickly as possible. As quickly as possible. I will take note that while there is a handcrafting recipe for firearm magazines that uses coal, stone, and iron plates, you cannot automate that. You can only automate the lead plate recipe, so firearm magazines are going to consume lead. They are going to exclusively consume lead, and then your piercing round magazines are going to be even more lead with steel. So lead and steel combined in will give you your piercing round magazines. Of course, walls is vanilla, same as usual, stone bricks into walls. Walls are denser, so you may actually prefer belt bussing walls if you really have to, but yeah, so that is my overview of military science. I would like to thank you all for watching. This has been Otaku Showboat. Our next tutorial will be batteries. Specifically, it'll be rayon feeding into batteries. It will be rayon feeding into batteries. The reason for that is, well, now that you've got your laser turret tech, you now need batteries to build laser turrets. You now will need batteries to build laser turrets. So we are going to cover rayon next time, which is a necessary component no matter what recipe for batteries that you use. There are several recipes for batteries, and we will discuss those in the next tutorial. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to help make this series higher up in search results. You can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/OtakuShowboat, on Twitter at OtakuShowboat, visit my website at otakushowboat.com, as well as help support my continued existence on Patreon at patreon.com/OtakuShowboat. You can also help to support Pyanodons Monster Development at patreon.com/Pyanodon. I hope to see you all on the next tutorial.